You already have a degree or you're going through one, but you aim for an academic career. So you are seriously thinking about investing 3 years abroad to enhance your CV. You want to go to one of the very top universities in the world, in the US or in the UK, but you can only afford 3 years. So you are faced with a dilemma. Should you invest those years in doing a PhD, or should you save them for later and go there for a postdoc? And you also ask yourself, when it comes to choosing a PhD supervisor, is it better to go with someone you know well, closer to home, from a not very famous university, or to take a risk and go with someone you don't know at all, but from a top-tier university? Your choices now could define your future career in academia. Welcome to Frankenstein Explains. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Cambridge in England. As for the PhD, been there, done that, I got my own from here, and now I give PhDs for a living. So these excellent questions are paraphrased from the ones that my viewer Hans Munir actually asked on this channel a while ago. Thank you, Hans. So let's dive into them. So first of all, PhD versus postdoc. What's the difference between the two stages of your progression? The PhD is about learning under the guidance of a mentor. And so this makes the PhD a crucial time for skill development. So it's important that during your PhD, you learn your trade as a scientist. And it's important that your mentor is a good mentor, is an experienced person, and is interested in you. In the PhD, you have a lot of freedom to experiment. You may define something as your original project proposal, but as you do stuff and you become more knowledgeable about the field, you see, actually, the really interesting unsolved research problem is something slightly different from what I said, and you change. And all this freedom is essential to the PhD. It's allowed. You have a duty to come up with interesting stuff that nobody ever did before. That's what you get a PhD for. In a postdoc, your role is somewhat different. You're expected to already be proficient, to already have learned your trade, and now you're just required to apply it. And you will be focused instead on delivering results that are agreed ahead of time, and you can't change them as you go along. So there's somewhat less freedom, and you're expected to already know your stuff. It's not focused on learning so much. You must do what you're told, and you must complete the tasks that are assigned to you. Now, of the two, clearly, the PhD is by far the more formative. I mean, in the postdoc stage, you have already been formed. So you should optimize, in my opinion, for doing the PhD in the place where it is likely that you will learn the most. And when I say learning, it's not about learning things, learning data, as it were. It's more about learning skills, learning methods, learning an attitude that even if nobody's done it before, I will do it, and I will do whatever it takes to do it, and I will build my own tools if I need to build the tools because they don't exist and so on. That's the attitude that you learn, that you acquire by doing a PhD, which is rather different from the degrees that you have done before, like a BA or a master, where there is a course syllabus and you go through the syllabus and you do the exam and then you get promoted. The PhD is not like that. And I have done videos about what a PhD is about, which you are welcome to check out. It's probably a useful thing to do if you're planning that path for yourself. Now the postdoc instead, after you get the doctorate, you do that once you're already one of us, basically. And so you've already got your baptism of fire through doing the PhD. So think about it. Which one of these two, the PhD or the postdoc, would you rather do on familiar ground, the university close to home and so on? And which one would you instead want to do at the best university in the world? The answer seems obvious to me, but it depends on whether what you want is to have safety or a challenge. In any case, I recommend that you prioritize the allocation of the task to the place in a way that you can grow the most for whatever suits you. Now, another point I want to explore is finance and reputation. If you're going to do a PhD in one of the top universities in the world, then you will have to pay a lot of money in fees. Or you will have to arrange for someone to pay a lot of money on your behalf by getting a scholarship. Now, these scholarships are highly competitive. The more so, the more prestigious the university is. If you are doing a postdoc instead, even if it's in a highly prestigious university, it's the university that's going to pay you. So this is a crucial difference that you must not overlook. Now, let's assume that you're so good that you are going to get a scholarship. If you do get a scholarship from a world-class school, then the finance issue is the same. You're going to get paid to do it, whether it's the PhD or the postdoc. And so what is the distinguisher? Well, the distinguisher there is that the scholarship from the top school is in itself a big line CV item, because it proves that you are great, because that competition is well known to be very strict and selective, and so it is further proof that you were very good just because you got it. So if you care about starting an academic career later, that is something that will make your CV more impressive. If you are concerned about your reputation, the reputation of the place you go to, where this will have the most effect on the career that you choose later and so on, what looks good on your CV, then it should be obvious, it's obvious to me, perhaps it isn't to every one of the viewers, that having been trained at a great university is worth a lot more than just having worked at a top university. And so that would be telling you how to optimize for making those 3 years of stay abroad look best on your CV. Go to the top university for your PhD rather than for your postdoc. The ambient IQ of a world-class university, the quality of your peers, the quality of the publications that come out of that kind of lab, and so on, the inspiration and challenge you get by being next to other people who are great. All these suggest that in the period, in those 3 years you allocated to being at the top university, the papers that you produce in that period are going to be among the best that you produce. So you should think, do I want to produce those highly prestigious papers during my PhD or during my postdoc? Now, during your postdoc, you would be more knowledgeable, you will be more mature, you're probably going to be able to do better work because you're not in training, you're not fully formed. On the other hand, during your PhD, you're going to be, less refined, a bit more rough, less knowledgeable, but you're going to be maybe more original and innovative. So at which one of these two stages do you want to be in the better and more inspiring place, which is the top university? And the third issue I want to explore is that of your own personal growth. The years of your PhD, if you play your cards right, are some of the most formative of your entire life. You should really maximize your learning opportunities. You should put yourself in the environment that is going to be the greatest stimulation for you. You should that pulls the best out of you. You should surround yourself with people who are stronger than you and challenge yourself to level up. You should invest time finding a PhD supervisor that you truly admire, someone who already is the kind of person that you would like to become. That's my advice for how to choose where to do your PhD. Now, whether at the PhD level or at the postdoc level, in either case, you must take every opportunity you can to create connections that will support your future career. You should write plenty of papers, you should travel the world to give plenty of talks about the papers you've written, and you should invite others to challenge your ideas. Don't just write papers and send them out in the void, fire and forget. You should argue about stuff. You should elicit discussion on your stuff. You should understand by practice what the standard of quality is in the peer community that you're about to join when you're still a PhD student, and you should make friends along the way. Some of the colleagues you have, whether other PhD students at the PhD student stage or other postdocs at the postdoc stage, they will look imposing, they will look like they already know everything, but in fact, they're probably just as scared as you are of being surrounded by all these other clever-looking people. Nobody is exempt from the imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is this big monster, and this monster, you should just punch it in the face. And so always strive to stick your neck out and expose yourself to criticism. Don't be too afraid of criticism. Everybody gets criticism, suffers through that, but it just comes with it. If you want to have an academic career, you will always be subject to people criticizing your ideas, and it's not bad. It's good. It's the way that ideas get refined and developed, and bad stuff gets ruthlessly kicked out. So accept criticism. Criticism is not always a bad thing. It may make you feel attacked at the time, but it's how you become better yourself, because sometimes the person criticizing you is actually right. I mean, your argument is somewhat flawed, but you had a good idea. You can still make your argument better and then represent that, and then go from rejections to acceptance and so on. So understand that criticism is going to be a constant feature throughout your academic career if you have chosen an academic career, and make the most of it and discuss with people and establish those connections. And especially during the 3 years that you spend in the more prestigious place, you'll have more opportunities to network with people from around the world. If you go to one of the best places in the world, other people are going to be there not because you are there, but because it is one of the best places in the world, and that would be your chance for making those connections. But you have to be proactive about it, because it is not something that will happen by itself. So don't make the mistake of going to a prestigious place and then for those 3 years just beaver away in your cubicle for those 3 years all alone, and missing out on all the chances you would have to make connections. Instead, force yourself to get out, meet other researchers, forge links, take the networking opportunity to as far as it can go, if you're only allocating 3 years for your stay abroad. Another warning I want to give you, and this is not to put you off, but be ambitious, but also be realistic. Do you actually have what it takes to get into a top university? It is hard. Getting there with a scholarship that pays for your studies is super hard. And finishing the PhD in 3 years is even harder than that. So why do you have that self-imposed 3-year limit anyway? That's what you said in your comment, that you were going to allocate 3 years to go abroad and do a PhD or a postdoc. Well, is it realistic that you will finish a PhD in 3 years? I don't know you. I don't know your circumstances. I don't know why you put that limit on your time. Maybe that's all you think you can afford. That wouldn't be so important if someone has space for your scholarship and so on. But anyway, what I know is that very few people, even among the brightest of the bright in the top universities in the world, are able to pull that off, completing the PhD in just 3 years. When I did a PhD, nobody else in my cohort could do that. So maybe you can do like I did, which is, I had a hard time limit of 3 years because the person who was financing my PhD told me that if I didn't finish in 3 years, he would kill me. So you can use this as a hard constraint to force yourself not to waste any time. And then it will work very much to your advantage, because of course it's a benefit to finish in 3 years. You have much more time to do other stuff after that. So of course here I'm talking specifically about the PhD, not the postdoc, because the postdoc will already automatically, definitely have an end. And if you take a postdoc the last 3 years, then at the end of the contract it will finish. Whereas the PhD only finishes when you write up something that you write up the stuff you've done in your research. First, you have to do the research. You have to complete the research. And after that, write it up up to a standard that satisfies your examiners. And that is a process that is not at all guaranteed to terminate in 3 years or even to terminate at all. So bear that in mind. Now, with all that said, you ask intelligent questions and sensible questions, but there are no answers to those questions that will be good for everyone. And as I said, I don't know you personally. Everything, what is right for you, depends on you, depends on your circumstances, depends on your ambition, depends on where you want to get to, and not least, it depends on your actual abilities, none of which I know. But my advice to you, generic advice, is don't look at what to do through the lens of how will the future hiring committee for my lectureship that I plan to get view my CV if I take this route or this other route, doing the PhD abroad or doing the postdoc abroad. Well, you should instead, in my opinion, look at your career through the lens of which of these two options I'm considering, which of these will be the most formative for me, which one will make me a stronger researcher, which one will be the most conducive to me doing research that will have the greatest impact. So if I had to make the choice you're asking about, personally, I would choose to do the PhD in the top class university, because that is the environment where I'd like to spend my most formative years. But you don't actually have to make the same choice as me. You don't have to make the choice between those two options either. You don't have to go back to your own country to get a lectureship. I didn't. I was here. I came here before I even thought of doing a PhD. When I thought a PhD was a waste of time, then I changed my mind and I did a PhD here. Didn't go back to my country. And so maybe some of the choices some of the dilemmas you have, the choices you have, once you get there, it's not what you're going to have to choose between. You don't even have to do a postdoc after your PhD before you take on a lectureship. I didn't do that either. I didn't even plan to apply for an academic job after my PhD, and I did, and I got one before I even submitted my dissertation. So nothing is scripted. Other stuff can also happen. Go with the flow. Always be the best possible version of yourself, and be prepared to recognize and catch the unexpected opportunities when they turn up, because they will turn up. And that's how successful people attract luck their way. So if you found this discussion helpful, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more insights on navigating your academic journey. What challenges are you facing in your decision-making process? Let's chat in the comments. Your experiences can help others as well. And say chewing gum to signal that you are here till the end. And these other videos here would be of interest if you're planning to do a PhD.